Ankur, this has been great as we look through these hands and some of the mistakes you made, some of the things you did well, and so many people are learning along with you through this process. So, what have been some of your big takeaways?
First of all, just want to say thank you for asking me to play. As we discussed in sort of the intro video to the series, it was a surprise, a very pleasant surprise. I was thrilled and excited and nervous and, all the feelings. It's been great. And thank you for taking the time to go through these boards because I think one thing that I think is incredibly important is we spend so much time before a session practicing, talking about conventions, talking about agreements. It's just as important to spend time after going through the hands, understanding where did each partner make a mistake? Where did the partnership as a combination make a mistake, or where are there places for improvement on the partnership side? And going through these hands in the detail and the rigor that we have done. I'm not saying I can do that for every session of bridge that I play, but being able to do it has been really, really informative and has helped me to see some themes and some areas of my game that I know I need to work on, as well as just sort of, like you said, like also recognizing the places where I made the right choice. That's also just as important, like it's so easy in bridge to just focus on your mistakes and be like, oh, I suck. I'm never going to get good at this game. And so taking the time to also appreciate and recognize the things that you did well, I think that's really important also.
It's actually more important. One of the things is I've been reading a lot this year about top performance and getting the most out of yourself. The more that you condition your mind on the good things and just ignore the bad thing, it's tough. There's a fine line there because you need to see, okay, here's where I made a mistake and what I can do to fix it going forward. But if you spend too much time thinking about the mistakes, they kind of get reinforced. And if you think about the good things, those get reinforced. So you need to find the balance there. What were some themes that you picked up on areas both where you did really well and where you think there's room for improvement?
One theme we went over the last board of the set and the sort of one in a million mistake that I made there, where it's like, how did I even do this? And I think that is one thing that I've seen come up in other sets, especially in events where I'm really trying to put in my best effort in national events, especially. One thing I've noticed is sometimes I will make mistakes on the last board that I wouldn't make otherwise. And so I think that is a key thing for me, just getting into the right headspace, making sure that I'm actively reminding myself like, hey, this matters, pay double the attention, take the time that you need to make the right decisions. Don't make a mistake on the last round. There was another theme that emerged from a couple of the boards that were reviewed around bidding judgment. These situations, especially where you're in between two bids and you don't know which way should I go. First of all, just doing the reps, practicing bidding with your partner and making sure that you see those situations more often so you are more confident in the bid you're making. But then once you make the bid at the table, like now you just have to sit with that bid. Don't try to make up for it on the next bid because that often lands you in more trouble than you were with the first one.
The other theme that I think we saw was kind of double checking your work. Okay, trust your instincts, trust but verify, right? There were a couple where you're like, oh, I have such a good hand, I need to double them. I think another 30 seconds of consideration might have gotten you to, oh, they might be able to run. They might be able to make this thing. It's a fine line, right? Because you have to trust your instincts. But there are a lot of situations where you have the time to let that system two kick in, but you have to make it happen. If they lead a thing up to the king jack and you have the ace, like you have to do that quickly. You have to play that on instinct. Now, maybe you've had a chance to think about it and plan in advance, but if not, there you have no choice. But in the auction, I was like, I think I should double, but hold on, let me check.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But identifying that those areas, right? That's the most important thing is knowing what to work on. I think one of the takeaways here was that your system knowledge, very good. your declarer play was generally very good, right? There was like one or two that were really judgment things in the play more than anything technical. I think it's really important to give yourself credit for that and say, you know what? I have a lot of work to do on my game, but not as much in these areas, right? This was pretty solid. And so I want to work on bidding judgment. And that sort of assessment is really important. And that's something that a coach can be really helpful with. It's one thing to be like, I don't think I made too many declare play mistakes, but then, to have your coach confirm that and say, yeah, that's not where I would spend your time. You want to work on bidding judgment. So what do you do? Like, how do you work on bidding judgment? I'll give you my recommendations. The number one thing you can do is look at the expert panel sort of things, the It's Your Call, the Master Solver Club, looking at hands from early on in both the Bermuda Bowl and the team trials where everyone's playing the same hands. It's not as consistent that you're getting problems as with a panel thing, right? They've chosen hands that are tough. But if you go through the view graph, say the round robin of the Bermuda Bowl or the quarterfinals, and I think in the Bermuda Bowl, it's not just the Bermuda Bowl, but like the women's and the seniors and the mixed, I think they're all playing the same hands. And so you'll often see a situation where it's like, oh, this was a close bid. And Zia bid four hearts, but Mixroth passed, right? And you can go through and see what all of them did. That's just amazing data to help hone your judgment.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good recommendation, and I think that's something that I have not been doing and gonna make a commitment now to do, because I think you're right that that's just like you said, like having those opportunities to see what players better than you are doing on problem hands forces you to then think like, okay, what would I have done in that position? And was it the same or was it different? And what was the reasoning?
And for the recent world championships, the view graph data for the play is not always great because that was done manually, but the bidding was all done on the tablets. And so all of that is accurate for sure. And you have it for every single table. And I really think these view graph archives, especially on Lovebridge, are the most underutilized tool that we have to work on our game.
Yeah.
How would you say that this experience compared to other national events, but where you weren't playing with a teacher? How has this postmortem differed from those?
Well, I mean, obviously, I have never spent this much time on a postmortem. Maybe doing the sort of write up that I did for this event is worth considering. I think there are things that I got out of this that I would not have gotten if I wasn't playing with a coach. Part of the discussion that we had before this was, hey, this is going to be an opportunity for me to learn. One of the takeaways here is you really want to improve your game, and that is something that you want to spend time and resources on. Get a coach. Get a coach who you can play with, who you can steady with, because when 100% of the time is focused on improving your game, you're going to be getting that much out of it.
And the at the table stuff is great, right? I was able to see what you're doing at the table. And, some of that is tempo and demeanor, but honestly, the post-mortem is what's the most important. And even if I hadn't played the hands with you, going over them, I think would have been very useful to you. I know I work with students, and what I think is maybe the best bang for your buck is to play a game online so that there's a total record of all the bids and plays, and then have your teacher or coach go over it. And card by card, I'll be like, why did you play the 8 instead of the 4? This should be a soup preference situation. And like digging that deeply into it. The problem is these online events, they're not as high stakes as playing in the Spingold, obviously, but like the team trials is, and we have every card there. So, I would encourage people to play in some events like that. The ACBL has online tournaments and things like that. And, if you can, hire a coach to play with you. But even if you can't do that, usually a little cheaper, to just hire them to analyze the game. They can go through and you'll be amazed at the things that they noticed that you didn't.
I think everyone knows at least one bridge player that's better than you, probably several. Ask, right? One thing that I learned from this and putting up some of my biggest mistakes from this event on the internet, you need to go into this with a low ego. It's okay to share that you made a mistake at bridge. Everyone makes mistakes at bridge. Everyone has bad boards. And the only way to go wrong is by trying to hide it or trying to pretend that you don't make mistakes. If you go into it with a low ego and you just ask, like, hey, can you look at this hand? I think I messed it up. This is what I think I did wrong. Can you help? Like, you might not get someone, you've been very generous with your time here in analyzing many, many boards. You might not get someone who will do that, but certainly there are many bridge players out there who will be happy to say, oh yeah, let me walk you through this hand, or let me tell you what I would have done on this hand and why I would have done it differently.
I totally agree with that. And I think most good players are very happy to help you with a board or two, but they're not going to go over 60 boards
No, of
with.
course. I mean, there is a level, right? We all know that bridge can be a very expensive habit and an expensive passion, especially if you're traveling to tournaments. And if you're just thinking about it financially and you're asking yourself, where are you getting the most bang for your buck? Instead of going to one more tournament, why not take that money and invest it in yourself by hiring a coach to go over your last tournament's hands? That money will end up paying itself many, many times over in the future in the analysis and the learnings that you get to take away from that. I think it's important to also recognize that it's going to take time as well. If you're going to spend the money to hire a coach, recognize that you're also going to have to put in the time. If you aren't willing to put in the time to spend with the coach to understand the analysis, to then go away and take your own time to think through both before you talk with the coach and after you talk with the coach, like that is also part of the equation. And I think for me, I have a 5-year-old daughter, I have a full-time job. There's other time commitments that I have in my life as we all do. And so I think for me, like one of the things that I recognize is if I want to level up my game, if I want to take it seriously, I need to elevate it from sort of a part-time hobby to more of a thing that I assess and think of more rigorously. So for me, that means maybe adding a line item in my budget, saying I'm going to be thinking about bridge the same way I think about buying groceries or paying for Netflix. There's a certain amount that I'm going to budget in terms of money, and equivalently setting aside time on the calendar, blocking time on my calendar, talking with my wife and saying, hey, I want to take 2 hours or 3 hours every weekend and just carve that out. And I go into the office and close the door and I'm just focusing on bridge that time. And I might not even be playing. I might be analyzing. I might be talking with my coach. I might be talking with my partner, but I'm going to make that time specifically to improve my game. I think being more rigorous in that way about how I'm expending my resources, and then that's a forcing function for me as well. Is it like, okay, I'm doing the things that I do for serious things in my life. Therefore, this is a serious thing. Let me take it seriously.
Yeah, I mean, think about this experience for you. We played a full day at the tournament. So that's 6 or 7 hours. And just that experience was a good experience. And you got a lot out of it and you learned a lot. But you've put in at least that many hours afterwards doing the postmortem. I mean, one of the reasons that I think this was so useful for you and you got so much out of it was before you and I even talked, you had gone through all of the hands. You would come up with your questions. These are the things that I really want to talk about, right? Zero in, oh, this board was kind of boring. We don't need to talk about that. I think that ratio of at least 1 to 1, time at the table, time looking at the hand afterward, is the difference maker, especially if you're working with a coach. It's so much more fun playing. It's a game, but like a pro athlete spends a lot more time practicing, going over tape, scouting the next match than they do actually playing the game. A good golfer spends much more time at the range and the putting green than they do on the course. And I think we need to adopt that mentality as bridge players.
Yeah. No, I agree completely.
I'll tell you, if I were going to hire a coach, which I have been thinking about as part of this leveling up program, like I'm a coach, I'm a teacher, right? Like I know how valuable what I do is for people. The best tennis players, the best golfers, they all have coaches, right? We should all have a coach. It would be fun to play with someone. The play the platinum pairs with Gavin or Steve or something like that. I would love that. But that's really expensive. And, unless they're willing to put this amount of time in afterwards, I don't think it's the best bang for your buck. I think the best bang is you play with your partner and have your coach go over it. Best case is you do it online, and I think the team trials or something like that is the best thing, but these ACBL tournaments, or you can even just play a speedball and have them go over it. I have students who I do this with, and they find it incredibly useful. And one of the things that a coach does is they point out things that you didn't even notice. And that's where you can do all the postmortem on your own that you can and you should, but you can't get quite enough out of it, quite as much out of it, because you're not going to notice all of your mistakes.
Exactly. And this goes back to, if you want to level up, like part of it is getting a player who is at a higher caliber to be able to see the things that you didn't see. And so much of Bridge is about breaking through that plateau, get to a certain level, and then you kind of start plateauing. There's something about breaking through that has to happen. And oftentimes that requires insight to come from someone else who has also done that leveling up before you and says, hey, did you think about this? Or did you think about that on this hand?
The easiest way to do that is to hire a coach, but financially, that's not feasible for every event you do, not for everybody. But if you pay it forward, you can get this without paying for it, not on the same level. In my conversation with Norman Beck on the podcast, he said everyone should have three partners. You should have someone who's better than you, who's your level, and you're better than them. Your person at your level should be your main partner who you mostly play with. But then you have someone better who's your coach, your mentor, and then someone that you are mentoring. It would be so great if we could just ingrain that in breach culture. I got good because I had mentors. Everyone got good because they had mentors. And I do my best to pay it forward. I work with the USBF juniors and friends like you, right? As much as I can help. Cultivate those relationships, both with the people who can give you advice, but also the people that you can share your knowledge with.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Absolutely. We're all in this together. We're opponents at the bridge table, but away from the table, I think we're all trying to keep this game alive. And part of that is definitely paying it forward.
This has been so great. Ankur, again, thank you for filling in, right? We would have been in real trouble if you hadn't happened to be around and you delayed your flight to do it. Like, it was a great help to us as a team. And I'm so glad that we were able to do this together, work on your game a little bit. And I know it's been helpful, not just to you, but to everyone watching. And I hope the big takeaway here for everybody is that you can get better at this game. There's a way to do it. And it starts with doing the work, analyzing your game, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, and then putting together a regimen to work on those areas of your game that you need to level up.
Thank you, Adam. This
Yeah.
has been